So here, what is happening is we are mistaking the cause and conditions, and every suffering, happiness, all our experience have cause and conditions. And cause is the main origin, and then there are also contributory conditions, contributory cause. Just as the seed of these trees, that is the substantial cause, that is the main cause, which will transform also eventually in that tree, in that plant. And then it also requires a lot of contributory cause conditions, such as favorable conditions, such as water, warmth, good soil. All these things also contribute it. But the main cause is, the decisive cause is the seed. In the same way, these things which we are often see as the very cause are, many of them are only conditions, and some of them even not even a condition, but we mistake through our own foolishness that we mistake something being a cause or contributing to our suffering, which actually has nothing to do with our suffering, or nothing to do with our happiness, but we think, believe them to be some cause. But the maximum role that can play by such things is as a contributory condition, and which is not a decisive cause. These conditions can change, it's also very changeable. Condition of suffering can change into happiness. Condition of happiness for one person could be a condition for suffering for the others. Even for one single person, the condition of happiness in the past can change into condition for the suffering later, or vice versa. The conditions are not a decisive cause of the suffering or happiness. These are contributory cause or possible condition. Right? Very often we think the wealth is the source, the ultimate, the very source of all happiness. But it also depends, as already said before, it can be a possible cause for happiness for some people, but it could be also a cause for suffering for others, even for oneself. The condition of the happiness, such happiness can change into a cause for suffering later. As long as somebody with whom we have good relation, that person is one's best friend, source of great happiness and so on. But then due to something happens in between, and then that relation changes, or something happens, or divorces, or something like that. Something happens, and then that same object of great happiness changes into undesirable condition for sufferings. That some object that one always have to be together, and always wish to see, wish to touch, and wish to be together. Sometime later, that same object then becomes a source of suffering. Even the sight of such a person will bring us sufferings and hatred in ourselves, let alone to be together. Even though it's the same continuity, it has not changed to a totally another person, it's the same continuity, but it no longer plays the same role, because it's only a condition for happiness, not the cause, substantial cause of the happiness. In the same way, a person who didn't have much wealth or whatsoever, and go through some difficulties, and then through one's own efforts or whatsoever, then one try to accumulate wealth, and that way one's situation, poverty changes, one becomes wealthy and wealthier, and then of course this wealth brings happiness, becomes the source of happiness. But then maybe it can happen, things can happen that even through one's own foolishness or whatsoever, or greed and so forth, one does something, one does business but in the wrong way, maybe in an illegal way, or engage in some kind of really wrongdoing, some criminal action, some kind of whatever, I don't know, tax evasion or something like that. There are lots of complications. Or somebody engaged in something like that. Then one is caught, one ends up finally in prison, owning nothing, and then at this moment that wealth, all that accumulation of wealth then becomes a source of suffering, great suffering, without which one would never end up in such a miserable situation. But now because thinking that this is the ultimate source of happiness, only happiness, and then we have dealt it just in opposition to what Buddha advised, not with contentment, satisfaction, generosity and skillfulness, but with greed and try to acquire it through whatever way, even very unsuitable ways, then end up then bringing into such kind of situation. And then the wealth and so on at this moment is, even one thinks about that, then it causes suffering. Not happiness, but suffering. There are many examples like that. So it can happen that at one point that a family is really in its best situation with the father and mother and children, etc., with a whole lot of entourage living together happily, even possessing a nice house or whatever property and so on. Very happy situation. That is what we call generally a happy life, happy family, having a good place to live and all living harmoniously. Everybody has whatever one needs and in great harmony. That is really happiness in what we call generally mundane, on our mundane level, the happiness, prosperous and so on. It is happiness. However, that also, as Buddha said, all what is composed are impermanent. All whatever one obtains end up in losing, and all what is born end up in death. So these are the reality. These are real, the nature of everything. So following that natural law of impermanence, someday it all ends, it changes. Maybe the parents pass away, etc., and the kids were before very happily playing together and so on, grew up, become themselves quite important and so on. Then, of course, sometimes it happens that even they have grown up, they still live all with a good relation, harmony between them. That's the best that can happen. It should be like that. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Now, each one to possess that heritage and that beautiful house and so on, and then they have a great disagreement about how to divide it, how to possess, and then in between, whole lot of family dispute can come up, and then instead of, then they all become kind of enemy for each other, and then all that poverty, all that nice house, all that nice park, everything becomes a source of suffering, because they cannot deal with these things in the correct, wise way, and they're dealing with each with their own greed and each with their own attachment and their own egoism. Then inevitably there will be this clash, and this clash of two persons is nothing else than clash between two egoisms which cannot stand each other. So therefore there is always this clash, and then it becomes a total disharmony, disaster, and even coming to the court, and all kinds of things happen. And so in such case, that beautiful environment, that beautiful property, that beautiful villa, all these things then change into again endless sufferings, disputes, and completely. It is the same villa, it is the same property. However, it cannot provide that happiness, that joy, which has produced during many years when the parents are still living there and healthy and so on. Here I would like to again back one of my classic examples. You are tired of it, but I haven't used it for quite a long time. So today is my chili example, because there are many new people, so therefore they must receive this task. Like some object like chili, it is a plant with a fruit, and in itself is neither cause of suffering nor cause of happiness. But then for that same substance who are not used to that, and for many people, especially here in Europe and so on, then it becomes a source of suffering. The more chili there are, greater suffering. So it is really like burning, the tongue and so on, which you can understand. That cannot bring any happiness. Therefore, for a lot of people, chili is a great source of suffering, and more chili there are, more suffering. But then that same red star, to a lot of us, the Asians, especially from India and so on, even for A lot of Tibetans as well. Also in China, especially in Sichuan, in such areas, the chili is a source of great happiness, supreme bliss. The more chili there is, more bliss, more happiness. If there is no chili, it is tasteless. If there is food, whatever they are, tasteless. But so therefore one must have these ingredients. The more they are, more blissful it is. So therefore it is really a source of happiness, source of joy. As I said before, in one condition, because since this is not a cause of happiness or suffering, it is only a condition. So it can be, conditions are changeable. For one person it's a condition of great bliss, and for some other person it's a condition of great suffering. It all depends who is using it. Also these conditions, outer conditions of happiness, suffering is also very changeable for different people. For example, a person has a very dear friend, and that same person, or maybe let's say a very hated enemy, and really one doesn't want at all even to see it. But that same person, this enemy, is for his own folks, for his own family members, for his own children, wife or husband, whatsoever. It is the best person is the best friend, the best supporter. So therefore, it is the same person. For one person is really a source of fear, source of suffering. For others is the ultimate source of security, source of happiness, and so on. That also shows that person is not a cause of happiness or cause of suffering in itself. So that's also, here one should also understand when Buddha said there is nothing which is existing inherently as enemy or inherently as friend. Everything depends upon how we project on the person a friend or an enemy. But from the side of the enemy itself, the person itself is neither friend nor, generally speaking, neither friend nor enemy. So that's on the ultimate side. But the point here is that therefore one person, one object could be two different things, friend to one and desirable to one and very undesirable to others. So that also shows that this person is not a cause for one's own happiness or suffering. It is only a condition for the suffering. Even though for the one who takes him as an enemy, it is condition for the sufferings. In the same way, all these holy representations we have here, the images of the Buddha and so on, for those who understand the meaning and also who cherish them, who has much faith and devotion towards them, all such objects appear as a great source of happiness, source of blessing, source of joy, and etc. But there are also countless others who cannot stand even a sight of images like that. For those people, due to whatever their own attitude of the mind, their own views imposed on these things, then see these objects as a great disturbing factor which only provokes in them, by the sight contact with them, only hatred, dislike. So therefore they even make the efforts to destroy them, etc. So therefore even the holy representations also for some it serves the purpose of generating faith and happiness, source of happiness. For others is a source of great sufferings and hatred and so on. So therefore these are also not just in itself just a cause of suffering or happiness. It all depends upon the mind of those who are perceiving them. So these are explained to understand that our view usually that we have, that the source of my suffering, source of my happiness is out there, is somewhere outside of ourselves, and this is proved to be wrong. So because of that reason, Buddha has taught that line, tame one's own, your own mind. After all, everything depends upon whether or not we transform our mind, or tame our mind means actually transform our mind. So that is the essential teaching of the Buddha. The real cause, the substantial cause, the real cause for our sufferings are also all in one's own mind. And in the same way, the real cause, the substantial cause for our happiness is also within one's own mind. So therefore, if one really wish to bring about a fundamental change in one's life, in one's experience, then one has to go to the root of that, which is within one's mind, and recognize where are the cause of suffering, where are the cause of happiness. And so on that level we have to work. So all these teachings of Buddha are all Vinaya. Therefore, all the teachings of Buddha is Vinaya. Vinaya means tamer, that which tames. Sometimes we think, Vinaya is only one part of teaching which concerns with our monastic discipline and so on. That surely is also for taming our mind. But it is not only that section of the teaching. Entire teaching of the Buddha is Vinaya. Vinaya means taming. Or entire teaching of the Buddha is equally also Lojong. Lojong means mind training. Here again we sometimes think, Lojong is only one special part of the teaching which came from Master Atisha and so on. That's true, that has its own meaning. Here is not just in general training our mind in a very systematic, particular way. But in general, everything what Buddha taught, in every vehicle, they are all Lojong. They are all for training the mind. They are all Vinaya. That means taming the mind. They are all for taming the mind. From the beginning till end. Sutra, Tantra, they are all Vinaya actually. So every teaching of Buddha are actually included in Vinaya. That's because Buddha said, tame your own mind as the fundamental teaching. Therefore, they are all Vinaya. Essentially, so how do we tame our mind? That is principally, essentially, it is accomplished through the practice of meditation. Meditation is the inner work, and that inner work is nothing else than transforming our mind or taming our mind. Meditation, all meditations are actually training our mind. Training of mind actually means purifying our mind. Chitta parishuddha, that means mind completely purifying. That is the meaning of Lojong. Mind purifying, mind training. So therefore everything, all the practice of meditation are for purifying mind, for taming the mind. Lojong is chitta parishuddha karma. That means the process of purifying the mind. All these means the same thing. The whole purpose of practice of dharma in general is for taming the mind, transforming the mind. And particularly the real meditation practices, authentic meditation, is only for training the mind. So Buddha refers to this such practice, method of taming the mind, Vinaya, taming the mind. When Buddha used this word, it's all very meaningful. It implies that our mind is not tamed. And something which is already tamed, you don't need to tame. Our horse, which is already well tamed and very obedient, we don't need to tame. But when the horse is very wild, who never ever a saddle is set on its back, then I can understand when the horse gets suddenly a saddle on the back and this horrible thing metal thing through its mouth, they don't like it. They resist it. But after they get used to it, fortunately, the poor horses, we have also accumulated a lot of negative karma through using these horses. That is our main vehicle in Tibet. They are very, very immeasurably kind. So at first they are quite wild. They are not ready to accept that somebody riding on them and putting this very uncomfortable saddle on them, and so they resist. It takes some time. And if it is a bigger one like elephant, that's even more difficult. So therefore the elephant training is quite only those who are really skillful and trained can do that. And so when it's well trained, there are even great animals, very powerful like an elephant, who can easily knock down a human being without any difficulty, even can knock down a house or everything. When they are tamed, they become the most obedient sentient being to its master. So this little human being sitting on its head and commanding him to do this and to do that, very, very obediently, very diligently, the elephant would do it. Even in the scripture it is said, elephant, when it gets so tame, when it's wild, then it can cause quite a lot of disasters. But when they are tamed, they become so tame that even its master tells him to pick up a red iron, burning iron ball, the elephant would pick it up. And the master tells, so that to that extent it can be tamed, it can become so obedient when it's tamed. So therefore Buddha often used for our mind also in meditation and so on, always elephant as the best example, best picture of our mind. The elephant is very powerful. When tamed, it becomes the most powerful, useful, heavy, can take extremely heavy loads, etc. Very obedient. When not tamed, it can cause lots of damages and such things. And also, elephant is the one among all animals which leaves the largest and the deepest footprint on the ground. So in the same way, our mind also, when it is untamed, that is the cause for all disasters that are in the world, on our individual level or in the collective level. As I said before, all the world wars are all nothing else than our elephant of the mind is got certainly very crazed, certainly not only just wild but very intoxicated and very crazed, and therefore can cause such a great destruction even on the global level. This is because our mind elephant is not tamed. But when it's tamed, this mind elephant is tamed, then all the desired goals, all really true peace and happiness and so on, all the goodnesses that are there, every individual, collective, all happiness come from tamed mind, taming the mind elephant, up to the attainment of the full enlightenment. All those great virtues of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then source of every goodness is within one's mind, when mind gets tamed and to become obedient. So therefore Buddha always used that illustration to illustrate our own situation of the mind is like that of an elephant. Now this elephant story has reminded me of an important story which is maybe worth telling. Anyway, it's a true story which is taught in the sutras in one of the former lives of Buddha Shakyamuni. As a Bodhisattva, Buddha Shakyamuni is taking birth as a great king. I forgot the name, but anyway, a great king. And this king had a wonderful elephant, so big and so majestic and whatsoever, and was very, very, and he has also such a good elephant tamer, or the elephant, how would you say, pilot? Like a pilot, who sat on the head of the elephant and within the elephant, who has a full control over the elephant, and so well the elephant obediently follows the command, and that way it was very, very, very useful and become a really very favorite animal. So one time they together, the king and the elephant, the tamer, rode on the elephant and took some tour of the country whatsoever, somewhere, then walked very peacefully. But then it was a little bit, the elephant was a little bit in heat, like animals have their seasonal whatever crisis. So the seasonal crisis, but they have only seasonal crisis, not all-time crisis like the human. They have their seasonal crisis. So that was the case. And so therefore, on the way, this elephant smelled a female elephant somewhere, and then immediately he got into this crisis. He becomes so excited, so wild, uncontrollable. Now even the good master, who always the elephant listened, could not control him anymore. He tried everything with hooks and this and that. Had no control. He just ran in that direction of that female elephant. And they really both were so desperate. And very fortunately there was some branches hanging, so both of them could catch this branch, and so they could save their own life hanging on the ground. Elephant ran away. And then after the king said, but you said, this our elephant is totally tamed, you have full control, but what happened? And then he said, no, now it is. I will show you how much control I had. So after he could get the elephant back. And then to show that how he has full control over the elephant, he tells the elephant to pick up this burning hot iron ball. And the elephant, without any kind of resistance whatsoever, he picked it up. And then the king was very, very amazed. How possible that you have full control, but then what happened? The other day, then the elephant tamer said, oh master, that I have full control over his body, but I have no control over his mind. His body is tamed, but his mind I could not tame, and that's because of that. And that is a very good teaching. Our mind elephant is also, can be sometimes very, very wild, crazed by the delusions, like attachment, and it's not only attachment, still many other. Then disasters begin. Because of such reasons, Buddha also gave always an elephant as a good example for our mind.